Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we're going to be creating this card which has a lot of beautiful florals on it, as well as some texture in the background, and then that really cool sentiment focal piece that we have going on there. So to start with, I am going to be using the very beautiful Flower Bunch layering stencil, and we do have the layering guide on the back of this one, so it's easy to use. So I am going to start with the leaf area first. So this is the full piece, and I'm just going to do this onto a piece of white cardstock. So for this first layer, I'm going to be using the Misty Moor ink. This is a beautiful light greeny yellow color with a touch of brown, I would say. So I am going to do 2 of these to create that beautiful flower cluster that we do have on the card. Next up, I'm going to take the second layer for these leaves, and I'm just going to pop this into position where it needs to be. And for this layer, I'm going to be using the Marshland. Now this is going to give a really great depth to that color of leaves and stems, and it's just so quick and easy to do, and I do love that you get all that gradient in there when you're doing your ink blending. I'm then going to take the third layer for these leaves, and for this one I'm going to be using the beautiful Sea Forest ink. So as you can see, I'm just placing that into position and then using my mini ink blender to add the ink through the stencil. Once I have finished the leaves, I can then move on to the flowers. Now for the first layer of the flowers, I'm going to be using the beautiful Pastel Sunrise. It's a really beautiful pale pinky blushy pink colour. So I am going to add this through. Again, I'm using my little ink blending tools to give me that really great gradient effect there. So you can see that these are really easy to layer up. They're just going to, this large flower here is just going to fit centrally within those leaves, and then the other one just pops right on top. So once I've finished with the first layer, I'm then going to take the second layer. So I've lined this one up, and for this second layer of the flower, I'm going to be using the Canyon Clay. Again, a really beautiful kind of peachy colour here too. So once they're in position, I'm then going to take the third layer of the flowers, and for this one I am going to be using the burnt red. So there's not a lot of ink on here, but it does add a lot of difference to the overall effect. For the little flower centres, I'm going to be using the Sea Forest, and then for the second layer I am going to be using the Mangrove root, just to add that detail to the centre. Then I have these little buds, so again I'm just going to pop those into position where they need to be, and for this one I'm going to be using the Icy Water, a really beautiful cool blue colour there, so that's for the base layer. And then I'm going to take the second layer of these buds, pop them into position, and I'm going to be using the Winter Lake for that one. Really, really beautiful blue colours that we have. So once I have finished with that, I can then take these 2 images that I do have, and I'm just going to fussy cut around them. So I am going to cut both of these out so I can use these as different elements on my card. So when I do cut these out, I am leaving a thin white border around the images. This does save time while you're doing this because you don't need to get right up to the image, but if you wanted to, you could definitely do that as well. I just prefer to spend a little less time on my fussy cutting rather than getting it perfect. So once I have both of these images done, I can then play around with how I want these to be on my card. So I'm going to put these onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base, and I tried with interlocking them first, and then I thought maybe we have a play and we have them at the top and the bottom, but then I realized that I did really like that interlocking look. So I'm just kind of interlocking the leaves underneath and on top of each other to get me that really pretty look that we have going on there. So once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to move that over to the side. I then decided I wanted a little bit of texture in the background, so I'm going to be using the Mod Squares 3D embossing folder. I'm just going to take a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 white cardstock, and I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine, and you can see just how pretty this is. Now it does have different looks which way you use it. You can use the back, which is the deboss side, or you can use the emboss side, and I'm going to be using the emboss side for my card. So I'm just going to move that over to the side, and I'm going to work on my sentiment. So I'm going to take a piece of jet black cardstock, and I'm going to add this to the double-sided adhesive from Altenew. Now this is fabulous. It means that when I do cut these out with my little letters, it means that they're going to be little stickers, which is really quite cool. Now I did end up just using one of these, but I am going to use the beautiful Inline Alpha Die Set to create my sentiment, the large part of the sentiment. So I'm just going to take the letters for the word hugs, and I'm going to cut this out a number of times from this black cardstock that does have the double-sided adhesive on the back. So I did run this through my die cutting machine just the once with the metal shim, but I am going to do this 3 times so I can then have 3 layers for each of the letters. I do find that having a little pin comes in handy just so you can pop those letters out if you need to. So once I have all of my letters that I do need, I'm then going to do the rest of the sentiment. So for this, I'm using the sentiment strip stamp set, and I just need this sending part from this sentiment. So I'm going to add that to a block. It doesn't matter if it's wavy on the side that you don't need it, as long as the sending is nice and straight. I'm then going to mask off the rest of the sentiment that I don't need. So I'm just using a little piece of washi tape for that. I can then stamp this up and then remember to remove that tape. If you remove the tape, you are going to end up with a huge splodge. So just remember to move that tape off before you do stamp that down. I have cut that down into a nice strip to use as the rest of my sentiment. I can then start putting the card together. So I'm popping the card panel down, just using some glue tape, and I'm then going to add the flowers into position using some foam tape. Now I added some foam tape over the join, so that means that these 2 pieces are now connected and are now one. So I'm just going to add the foam tape for a little bit of dimension and then pop that down. Once that's in position, I can get rid of any of the overhanging pieces, and I do this from behind to give me a clean look. Now I'm going to move on to my sentiment. So for these larger letters, the ones that are in black, I have 3 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack 2 of them together, and I'm going to have 1 left over so I can kind of intertwine it with that strip that we have that says sending. So I'm just going to add all of these letters together, so 2 of each, and then just keep 1 remaining so we can play around with that one. I want this sentiment to be nice and straight, so I am using a little ruler, and I'm using the grid lines on my cutting mat as well as a little panel just to make sure to see where it's going to be. So this panel I'm not going to use, I'm just using it for a guide. Once I'm happy with how the letters look, I'm then going to add a little bit of washi tape just to keep these in place, and then pop my sentiment strip into place where I want it to be. So I kind of want it over that first letter, a little bit of the H, but then the rest of the sentiment strip I want below the letters. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift these letters up, keeping them kind of in place with that washi tape, and then I'm going to get rid of the backing off of the back of the letters just where I need it. So I am going to trim that and then keep going with the letters. Once that's nicely stuck down behind these letters, I can then take the ones that we've already stacked together and then pop them on behind. So even though that it looks like it's behind all of these letters, it's in fact not. It's just sandwiched between. So that's going to give you a really sturdy kind of piece of sentiment there. Once I'm happy with where it's going to go, I'm just going to remove the backing off the rest of the letters, straighten this up using my little cutting mat that we have behind, and then pop that down into place. Once that's done, I can get rid of any overhanging pieces again from behind to give me that clean look. So here is the card complete. I really do hope that you like it as much as I do. I'm really in love with the colours on this one. I also hope you've enjoyed the video too. And if you do create a card that was inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share, because we would love to see. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques, and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.